40 years ago today, most people were glued to their TV sets after the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded, killing all 7 astronauts on board. Our friend and former 9 News anchor Gary Shapiro and photographer Manny Sotelo were there at Cape Canaveral when it happened.
Also there this morning, a group of elementary students who were from Boulder County. They were there with their teachers. They had won a contest sponsored by Ball Aerospace to see the shuttle launch in person. History was set to be made that day, but the historic happenings turned tragic. Shortly after the shuttle exploded, Manny put together this story that we're going to show you right here that shows the emotions they all experienced that cold day in Florida.
We're expecting clear skies, light winds from the northwest, and good visibility. The countdown clock continuing at T-minus 1 hour, 17 minutes and counting. This is shuttle launch control.
You want all this ground under you?
Yeah, because we get the smoke and yeah, it's got plenty of room.
Okay, fine.
Plenty, yeah, no, that's good.
T-minus 10 minutes, 55 seconds and counting.
Aerosurface checks are complete and aerosurfaces in launch configuration. Gimbal checks of the orbiter's main engines now underway.
John, Bobby, why don't you come over where you can see? You can see right from there.
The SRB hydraulic power units have started. T-minus 21 seconds and the solid rocket booster engine gimbal now underway. T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
Look at
Oh my God.
Coming.
And liftoff.
My God.
We'll throttle down to 65% shortly. Engines throttling up. 3 engines now at 104%.
Challenger, go at throttle up. Challenger, go at throttle up.
Oh my God, look at that. Oh my gosh.
It looked like it
Look
blew
at that.
up. Is that all right?
Is it? Oh my.
Where's
Is
the
it?
shuttle?
Well,
The top one?
my God, what?
We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded. My director confirms that. We are looking at checking with the recovery forces to see what can be done at this point. We will provide you with more information as it becomes available. This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? We have had a major malfunction and we're waiting for more news. We ask that you quietly calm the site, quietly clear the site and go calmly to your cars.
There's nothing else that we know at this point other than what has happened. The only other question is why? How did this happen?
So Gary joins us now to talk about that day 40 years ago. Thanks for coming on this morning.
Good morning. Welcome, Drew.
Thank you very much, Gary. Thank you for that.
That was incredible perspective from Manny's view. What was your perspective that day?
Well, I was pretty much standing right next to him, and so everybody was so excited. This, as you mentioned, this was the Teacher in Space program. This was, you know, kids all over the country were watching, and we were watching from Cape Canaveral. And then, you know, 73 seconds in, it just all turned around. And I think everybody was in shock, pretty much. It actually looked worse on TV than it did to us because it was 2 miles up.
Oh, yeah.
So it was this explosion, and you could tell something happened, but it wasn't the close-up of it. And so we were confused, didn't know what really happened until that announcement came on, maybe 30 seconds later, that the vehicle has exploded. And then it just hit everybody.
You mentioned the Teacher in Space program. It was Krista McCullough. She was
Right.
picked to be the first teacher to go into outer space. And that's
Right.
why this was such a big deal leading up to the day. I know you weren't there specifically to cover Krista or even the launch itself. There was a bunch of Coloradans that were there.
Right.
So can you talk about the connections that were there on that day with you?
Yeah, so those kids that you saw in that video, those were the kids that won this contest from Ball Aerospace. They were all 5th and 6th graders from Boulder County. There was 6 of them and 6 teachers chaperoning them. And we went with them and we thought, oh, this is going to be such a great, happy story. All these little kids seeing the shuttle go up. They were all science nerds. You know, so it was going to be a great story, and then it turned into this other story. But there were other connections. Ellison Onizuka was one of the astronauts, crew members. He was a CU grad. There was a satellite on board the shuttle called Spartan Halley that was designed at CU Boulder. And some of the people with CU were there at Cape Canaveral to watch it happen. It obviously exploded with it. Halley's Comet only comes around once every 76 years, so they missed their opportunity because of the explosion. But there was a lot of excitement in Colorado. There was a lot of Colorado connections, and there were a lot of people from Colorado there. Members of the Board of Regents were there, people from CU were there, these kids were there. So it was a big deal.
Speaking of these kids that went, and you went with them, you did it again 2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that experience.
You know, Ball Aerospace, and bless their hearts, they took these kids back 2 years later when NASA did its return to space program. The Discovery shuttle went up. Mm-hmm. And they said, you know, these kids went through this horrible experience. Let's take them back and show them something happy, something good. And so they did. And to this day, those kids, who are in their 50s now, they talk about what a closure that was, getting to go back and watch this whole thing happen again. And of course, the countdown was the same. The shuttle went up the same. Everybody was holding their breath. And it just kept on going up. And so it was very emotional.
I was telling you, Gary, I was also in 6th grade when this happened. I remember rolling the TV set into our classroom, all of us kids, 30 of us sitting in the classroom ready to watch what we thought was going to be this great, exciting moment. Our teacher was really excited about it, and she was getting us pumped up. And then the tragedy strikes, and like everyone else that was there, we didn't know if that was a problem, if that was supposed to happen.
Right.
My teacher just starts crying in front of the classroom, in front of all these kids, doesn't really know probably how to handle the situation, and then not knowing what to say, just tells us, you got to go to lunch. It's time to go. I know that you actually kept track of these kids that were there that day. I mean, like you just said, 40 years has passed, but you caught up with them, you've talked to them. What are they saying today about that?
Yeah, there were 6 kids, and 3 or 4 of them I have kept track of over the years, and like every 10 years I call them and say, do you want to be on TV? You know, that sort of thing. But they, to the person, say that that day affected them professionally, not only emotionally, but professionally. They decided to go into science professions based on what happened that day. One of them is in California now. He designs humanoid robots. He's in charge of the safety systems for those robots because he wanted to do the safety systems because of the Challenger. One of them worked for Lockheed Martin for years and years. She lives in Spain now, and she's retired at 50-some years old. And one of them lives in Boulder. He's a world-famous photographer and filmmaker, and he does environmental films. And all that was kind of spurred on by what they went through as kids, the Challenger kids.
Yeah. And all of those kids say that they live life differently after that than they would have probably before because they witnessed it.
Because they witnessed it. They said life is a lot more precious. I mean, they grew up fast that day. They were just 6th graders who grew up fast, and they say they realize now life is so precious. They try and teach that to their kids now, you know, so.
Gary, it's great that you were able to join us here this morning, 40 years after this tragedy, and to share your experiences having been there that day. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you very much. And I'm very sad you were in 6th grade, and I was much older at the time.
Gary, I was like 6 months old. So.
Yeah, I know, right?
I got a little bit depressed when you told me about the person who was there who's now 50 and retired.
Right?
I think where did I go wrong?
Still sitting here with me.
Getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
There you go.
All right. Gary Barrett,
Thanks,
as always, nice having you on.
Appreciate it.
Like old times.